Joining us now is Robert Costa, the moderator and managing editor of Washington Week, which immediately precedes our program on Friday night. He's also a full-time national political reporter for the Washington Post and a regular political analyst for NBC and MSNBC News. Robert, thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
Great to be with you. I wish only I was in Florida. It would be not the worst place to go through this pandemic, that's for sure.
Weather is beautiful right now. So, Robert, I got to ask you, with the horrible unemployment numbers that came out today, is there renewed pressure coming from the White House on state governors to reopen more quickly?
President Trump and his top advisors, at least in my recent conversations with officials, are certainly encouraging governors to reopen their states, but they're trying to be a little bit hands-off. They know that this is a delicate moment for many governors, whether you're Republican or Democrat. And so they're working with Democrats like Jared Polis of Colorado, Governor DeSantis in Florida, Governor Hogan in Maryland, trying to monitor everything. But this is more about encouragement than direct guidance from the White House at this point. And there are many tensions inside of the West Wing about what the political cost of this will be for President Trump. If he reopens too soon or pushes to reopen too soon, will voters remember that in the fall? Will they blame him if there is a second wave? And now the economic pressure is on top of the health pressure. And so Washington is confronting all of these issues, hearing from governors, and there's no easy answer. Congress doesn't know exactly what it's going to do as its next step. And governors for now, based on my conversations on Friday morning, are talking through continuing to reopen in the summer. But the problem they have is places like restaurants, you're already seeing problems across the nation.
Is there any pushback or any governors saying, wait a minute, this is too quick, saying to the White House, you're demanding too much? The president is promising that the economy is going to come back bigger and better than ever.
You do see some criticism from governors like Jay Inslee, a Democrat in Washington. And there's a lot of private concern that the Trump administration, by maybe thinking about disbanding its coronavirus task force, by not listening to all the CDC guidelines, that it's putting governors in a tough position where people are clamoring to reopen. You've seen the protests in places like Michigan and other states from people and activists who want to get their economies reopened. But many governors, interestingly enough, are not directly confronting President Trump at this point because they feel like they need to keep that channel open with the federal government to be able to secure supplies that are so necessary, like personal protective equipment.
Bob, the valet, one of the president's valets was determined to have COVID-19 this week. And then on Friday, an aide to the vice president also was tested and found that he had COVID-19. In the West Wing, could you tell us behind the scenes what the attitude has been over the last few months about whether or not COVID-19 is dangerous and whether or not they have to practice safe distancing and wear protective coverings over their mouth? Or what's the attitude in the West Wing?
That development, the president's valet contracting coronavirus, now a member of Vice President Pence's staff, it's created a culture of unease, to say the least, inside and around the White House. Some of my sources are feeling very uncomfortable about their safety. They know that they are being tested regularly. The president now is moving toward daily tests instead of weekly tests. You see many staffers just wondering how prevalent is the virus inside of the government. And there is concern, of course, for the health of the president and the vice president, the people running the federal government. What is their exposure? President Trump is so interested in moving the economy forward. He's projecting confidence, but those around him are nervous.
I want to ask you about Dr. Fauci. In the last few days, he's kept a lower profile. Could you tell me what the relationship is between Dr. Fauci and the White House these days? Because here on the ground in Hillsborough County in Florida, there are many Republicans who are skeptical of the role that Dr. Fauci is playing.
Dr. Fauci has been celebrated by some in the country. As we know, we've seen him portrayed by Brad Pitt on Saturday Night Live. But in some corners of the White House, those kind of portrayals, that level of news coverage is not always deeply appreciated. The president wants to be out front and center, and supporters of the president are suspicious. And I've seen this anecdotally in my reporting of Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci as part of this push to reopen the economy across the nation. But Dr. Fauci, let's not forget, going back to the AIDS epidemic, this is someone who's deeply respected in scientific circles. He's not seen as having a political agenda. When I talk to White House officials, they say he works well with President Trump, but he's so driven by science and data more than economic concerns. And they say he's not trying to fight the economic arguments. He's just driven by the science. And his supporters say that's the best part about him. His critics are always saying he needs to balance the economic equation along with the health equation.
We just have about a minute left, but I'm wondering who is very close to President Trump? Who does he listen to? Does he have a kitchen cabinet? Does he have a group of advisors that he relies on to make his final decisions? Or does he have people close to him? Does he have a team of rivals? Tell us about decision-making in the White House.
President Trump has brought back some longtime confidants like Hope Hicks to help him in the White House. He has a new chief of staff in Mark Meadows. One person to pay attention to is Arthur Laffer, the veteran conservative economist. He talks to the president all the time, I'm told, by my top sources, advising the president on reopening the economy. President Trump usually identifies with generational peers. I found that throughout the course of my reporting. People of his age who are more conservative, he clicks with them and some of these new staffers. And there's always Jared Kushner, his son-in-law and senior advisor, playing a high-profile role behind the scenes in running some of the operations. So it's in part a family business, a circle of not just officials, but friends and advisors on the outside who he calls at nighttime or early in the morning.
Bob, thanks for coming on Florida this week. When you come down to cover the campaign, we're on the I-4 corridor. Hope you stop by.
I can't wait. Look forward to talking politics with you in person with hopefully little social distancing at that point.
That'll be the day. That'll be great. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.